Right. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing today?
Good morning, morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good. Um, we're almost done with this book, and for at least Dima, Andre, and Mariam, we have read already two books. But after 2 weeks, we will be reading two books. So that's really nice. And well, for Murad, I don't know if you how often you read programming books, but let's assume that not that often. Now you have in 2 weeks at least, you will be done with your first programming book, but hopefully not the last one. Yeah.
Of course.
Um, Good. So I actually liked a lot this chapter. I actually liked it a lot because it spoke about certain topics that I feel you all need to be aware of. And I think that's going to be the topic for for the next book that we're going to read. Some of those keywords is this concept of stand up, this concept of code review, and this concept of what's the other one? Team retrospective. Has anyone heard those topics in the context of development? Daily stand-ups, code review, and team retrospective. Has anyone heard those terms? Mariam?
No. Uh, Hi. Oh, sorry about I lost my voice,
Uh,
unfortunately. But I heard about the stand-up. Every person talks about the thing that they done yesterday, and they think that they're going to do in the coming days.
exactly, correct. Dima, you mentioned that you have also heard about it.
Yes,
Yeah,
we use it when
exactly.
we are working on a project, so we keep following up with our process, and each time we meet, we have certain points, have to mention it and to refresh our memories about it.
Exactly. So basically, there are three things that, especially when you go to the industry, that most likely you will encounter. One of them, as all of you mentioned, is daily stand-ups. Literally, people stand up in a circle and they go one by one saying, what is it that they're working on? It varies a little bit, but in essence, what are you're working on? If you have any uh, impediments, if you have anything that is blocking you basically from doing whatever it is that you need to do, and that's basically it. And then you go round by round. And the truth is that sometimes that can be a little bit of a waste of time, depending on how it's implemented and so on. And one of the things that the mob programming tries to improve is related to this, because picture this. Imagine if we are a team and we work almost every day, all day together. Would it be necessary the day after for me to tell you what I'm working with and for you to tell me what you're working with?
No.
No, because we have been working together in the same computer, in the same thing, on the same story at the same time. So one of the things that mob programming, or one of the benefits, is this aspect of knowledge sharing. And when I say sharing, that's from two perspectives. From an administrative perspective, since we're working together, I know what you are doing, you know what I am doing. Yeah. At the same time, from a knowledge perspective, let's assume Mariam, just for the sake of the argument, she's the database expert. Let's say Dima, she is the backend expert, and let's say Andre, he's the web expert, and we are working on a project, because each and every single person on the team has an area of expertise. What do you think is going to happen in terms of knowledge? Well, that I'm going to be able to learn a little bit how is the database part working. Dima will be able to say from her perspective how the backend aspect works. And even if you are on a given app, let's say that it's a relatively big app, Mariam, for example, she may know one part of the app very, very well, or one module of the app very, very well. Murad, for example, he might know another module. It's the same project, but each person has specialized. That's a little bit of a problem, because imagine, for example, Mariam is a little bit sick now, and she has to take a few days off, and we find a bug in that part. Mariam is not here. What do we do? You see the problem? I mean, yes, someone else has to take over, but given that Mariam is the one that has specialized in that, if only Mariam is the person that knows about that and dominates that part, there is a problem here. Because if tomorrow she decides to leave the company, she's leaving with her a lot of knowledge. However, if we work together as a unit on all the aspects of the app, okay, Mariam is sick, for example, it's unfortunate, but at least as a team, we can continue working because it's not that she's the only one that knows about that. We all share the same knowledge. That's what they mean by knowledge sharing. You are able to depend less on one specific person, and it's more a team that has this, because again, we're working together on different aspects. Any questions about that philosophy? I think that's a very important philosophy to keep in mind, because every single one of you have work. It doesn't matter what you have worked with. If you have had a job, you know how it's normal for like one person to be the expert on this thing. The person leaves, and there's a period of time in which the company is like, okay, we better learn what this guy is doing because he's leaving the company now. So someone needs to take that role. You see? So, and it doesn't matter if it's a restaurant, if it's whatever it is, that scenario happens very often. But if everyone knows a little bit about the whole system, then if one person goes, it's not a problem, quote unquote, in the sense that the company can continue moving forward. Any questions about that? Any comments about that? Any thoughts about that? No? Okay, so stand-ups, you will encounter that. Code review. Has anyone heard about the term code review? I guess you can imagine what it means, but has anyone experienced or heard about code review? Well, basically, all of you know Git. You have been using Git. And so far, because we are in an educational context, you have been pushing to main, to the main branch. You push directly to main. And for the context that we find ourselves, that's perfectly fine. However, do you think you're going to be pushing to main when you go to the industry? Not really, not really. You will probably be creating a branch, you will be doing your stuff, and then you're going to be doing a pull request. You're going to tell, hey, I want to put this back into, not put this back, but yeah, add these changes to main. But it's not that they're just going to add it. There's going to be a process in which people are going to review your code. The philosophy behind that is, guess what? Why do you think companies do that? Take a guess. Why do you think it's, if I create a code, 2-3 other people need to look into it? Take a guess.
Maybe avoid making a bug.
Avoid having a bug. Okay, Andre?
If you leave the company make sure somebody know what you did. Involved.
In theory, correct. So I would say
if they can
main. Go ahead.
Or maybe if they can see, or they can make some improvement on the code.
Exactly, correct. The main aspect I would say is the aspect. Okay, let me hear Dima first as well. Dima?
Sorry. To refactoring maybe.
To refactor, so maybe a little bit as Mariam and Murad said, exactly. So the main essence is the aspect of, or this philosophy of, let's say, 2 brains think better than 1. So it is possible that even though I had the best intentions, a little bug may have slipped that I did not notice. A little Boolean expression that was wrong that slipped, as an example, or a little requirement that I forgot to satisfy, or something. The idea is that other people will read your code and they will be able to tell you, hey, Humberto, there might be a bug in here that you skipped. Or, as Murad mentioned, hey, Humberto, maybe there's a better way of implementing this that requires less complexity. Or people might say, hey, I don't think that code is very clear. So is this aspect of code review? Yes, it's true, Andre. In theory, by other people reading your code, other people should be familiarized by what is it that you're doing. But the truth is, it is true, but it's not true really. Unless you are very, very actively, because you're only seeing a specific portion of the whole thing. And unless you have a lot of background on what's happening, you might not really understand or learn anything from that code. And yeah, honestly, I don't see it that much as a way of learning. Maybe it is. I might learn new ways of writing code in the sense like, hey, I didn't know this was possible. But from a domain it hasn't really helped me, to be honest. Now, mob programming tries to address that, because imagine we are a team and we're working on the same project, on the same code at the same time. When will the code review happen if we are all working at the same time?
The final, maybe.
No, the code review is happening as we write code.
Yeah.
Because if the 5 of us are sitting down on the same computer and in the process of writing code, we are correcting each other.
Yeah, each time
providing
we wrote the code, yeah, we're reviewing
exactly.
the code.
I mean, it's happening in real time. In real time, we have the navigator. I'm writing. I have the driver. I'm typing. As one navigator tells something, another one will say, "Hey, how about if we try this? How about, hey, no, that might produce a bug." You see? So as you are creating the code, you're kind of reviewing the code at the same time, because you have all these people, 3 to 5 people, working simultaneously on this project. And now here's where things get interesting. Imagine if I do an API request. I am not a backend developer, so I'm just following the API. And it turns out that in the mob, I have the API or the backend developer. He or she will be able to say, hey, wait a minute, there's a better endpoint for that. That's what I mean by knowledge sharing, by having different people that specialize in different areas. Because don't get me wrong, you will not be probably dominate the Android and the backend and the web. No, you're going to be an expert in one particular project, yeah, and you're going to have another expert for the web and another expert for the backend. But if you have all these specialties in there, the backend guy can tell you, hey, there's a better endpoint for this, or we have deprecated that endpoint, or we are in the process of deprecating that endpoint, so instead use this stuff instead. You see? So that is, the code review is happening as you are creating the actual code, which is positive, because then you don't need to review anything. In that cases, you almost always commit directly to main, because at least that's what we used to do. We committed to main. We did create a branch if we knew, like, okay, this is going to take a week or two. Let's make it in a separate branch. Just to actually, now that I think about it, we always did a branch, but we just committed directly. Like, we just no pull request. We just merged it directly or rebased it. Anyways, because who's going to review it if the 5 of us have been working on the stuff? You see? Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on that philosophy about code review?
Yeah,
No
I
question?
think it is not. It's not necessary, actually, as we review the code each steps we go through the
exactly
project.
Correct. And last but not least, team retrospective. How many of you do in your previous jobs? Because I believe this is something that is very useful even beyond software. How many of you have been involved in this concept of retrospective? By the way, do we even know what's a retrospective? Any ideas what that is? What's a retrospective?
Say to back what I did.
Say
what I did back. What I did back.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit about that. So imagine we are in a project. We finished the project, and hopefully everything went well. Even though the final result was accomplished, that doesn't mean that the process of reaching that result was smooth and flowers and everything. Yeah. So usually you do a retrospective to know, as an example, okay, what in this period of time that we had this project, we are done, but what went well during this project, or sorry, during this period? What could have been done or improved? And what can we do better for the next time we have something like this? So this is something common whenever you have sprints. So you divide a piece of work into, okay, this is what we're going to do for 2 weeks. And you you work on those 2 weeks. At the end of those 2 weeks, you have a retrospective. Okay, what went well? What didn't go too well? What can we do better? So that for the next sprint, we hopefully do better than in the previous one. And by doing better, I mean that the journey, the process is better, not like the result per se is better. The result could be 100% good, but the process might not be that smooth. So it is very common for companies also to do that. And I do it for projects that are not even software related, because at the end, a project is a project, a process is a process, like a journey was a journey. And even though we have achieved the results we wanted, that doesn't mean that the process was smooth. And that doesn't mean that there's no area of improvement if we have to go through this again. Yeah. Dima, I saw your hand raised. I saw your hand raised.
Yeah, I just remember that we done it before. Actually, we have the huge maintenance for all the company. I think it's the network and computers. So after we done, it's like advantage and disadvantage throughout the whole process. Each team show his advantages and disadvantages. How the procedure done through this period. What do you call it? What we can do better to do it better in the next time we do the maintenance. It is yeah, it is the same as this one.
Exactly, retrospective, talking about, hey, what went well, what didn't go well, what can we do better? So all of you will hopefully very soon find your jobs. And probably if it's IT and Gothenburg, I would say that yes, you will have some type of retrospective. But I will find it very weird if they do not have some type of retrospective. But if they don't, encourage your team. Don't think that just because you're not the leader of the team or you're not the most senior, you cannot suggest ideas. And one idea that I do believe is worth doing is this retrospective. You don't have to do this every week, but you should definitely do it after certain milestones, after a sprint, after finishing a project, after something. And one of those is, they call it the mob retrospective. If you're going to start doing a mob, you are not going, and assuming that the team has never done it before, you might not be surprised that probably in the beginning things are not going to go smoothly. So we used to have retrospective at the end of each day in the beginning when we started. Why did we do that? Well, to make sure that that we improved day by day. Eventually, like after a month or 2 months, we realized, okay, I think we have reached a certain level of like a plateau, like everything is clear, we're moving forward. No need to do this anymore. But in the beginning, retrospective every day at the end of each day. And I'm not speaking that you have to do a whole retro. No. Hey, the day's over, it's already 16. Let's stay 10 minutes extra. What went well today? What can we do better tomorrow? It's that simple. No need for process, no need to like paperwork. No. Hey, let's quick chat here, 10 minutes. What went well? What can we do better tomorrow? Yeah, because if you start adding processes and you start adding paperwork as an example and all these retros, people are gonna, you're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it. Keep it as simple as possible. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on that? On the aspect of retrospective? Andre, go ahead, please.
Yes, in my case, more in the context of the course, when I made the homework projects, Android, module 1, 2, I stopped when I finished module 1, I said, okay, I need to maybe create the structure, right, in the paper with the steps. So in the module 2, I do different. Now I know maybe it's better on do first the user interface first, after think about the logic. So in the context of the course, module 1, 2, 3, in the end, I did the retrospective to see what I can do better in the next module.
Exactly.
In this case, and the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's one way to definitely look at it. And the more you do it, you will eventually, reach your own conclusions. But at the same time, you have defined, okay, for me, it's better to start with the designs because it allows me to organize my ideas and I know what to expect in terms of behavior. Personally, I also like to start with the designs because it gives me a sense of what is really going to happen, and then I go back. Other people might like to start with the test. I mean, it depends. There's different philosophies. Yeah, but the important thing is to have this habit, because I would call it a habit of reflecting. How did it go now that I have reached this milestone? How did it go and what can I do better? for the next one and the next one and the next one. And I feel that it's a topic that should be applied not only for software development, but it has applications beyond software development. Good. So yeah, those are 3 topics: retrospectives, team retrospectives, code reviews, and daily stand-ups. After you have been studying like for 2-3 hours, what do you guys do to clear the mind, clear the stress? Any habits that you guys take?
Fika.
Fika, you go for a fika, okay. Mariam, for example, after 5 hours of development.
Actually, I have problem with this. I always thinking about the code.
Okay, so you're always thinking about the code. You don't disconnect, okay. Andre?
Going to the gym and hear music.
Okay, so you
Oh.
pump iron.
Yeah,
pump
but
some iron.
at the same time, I have 2 kids, so he bring me to
They
forget about the code.
the code, okay. Yeah, in my case, I take a walk. Basically, I go for a walk here. Now it's a little bit uncomfortable when it's getting a little bit cold, but it was better on the summer when it was a bit warmer. But what's the point I'm trying to make? It doesn't matter if you do mob all day or if you do solo programming all day. It is important to take breaks to not get these fatigue. And I know that it can be sometimes, especially a bit hard to disconnect, as Mariam describes. But whatever it is that works for you, you have to find a way of disconnecting. There's another book I don't, for at least for all of you except for Murat and Ayan, I don't think. Well, it depends. Okay, you by the time we start reading it, you might not be registered in the course, but you can still join the book circles because yeah, you're almost done. But there's a book that is called Pragmatic Thinking. Yes, and a concept that they explain there is that even though right now, let's say consciously, we are writing this code, when you step away from the keyboard and you go for a walk, you take your fika, you go for the gym, you might not consciously be thinking about the problem, but your subconscious is still working. And I don't know if it happens to you, but sometimes in the moments that you least expect is where ideas come to your head, like, hey, maybe I should try this to fix this bug. Well, I have learned that book really helped me realize or mentalize on that whenever I'm stuck in a problem, I actually say, okay, I'm gonna let my subconscious do its work, and I step away into that. And sooner or later, I come with an answer. The answer might not work, but I have a new approach, and then that new approach allows me to eventually reach the solution. So you do need to step away, try to find a way, whatever it is that works for you, but disconnect basically. Your subconscious will continue working and you don't have to worry about that, but it helps you not get this fatigue, basically. Fatigue of developing, fatigue of being in the mob. Because the truth is, you might say, okay, now that there's 5 people here, as an example, working together on this problem, maybe everything is going to be easier. It depends on how you define easier, but you will definitely get fatigue. Time flies by super quickly, and also it's hard to explain, but it definitely makes you tired, significantly more tired than if you were working by yourself. Andre, go ahead, please.
Yes, in my case, I like walk. I hear music, but the funny situation is, okay, I can fix this problem. I need to walk. When I walk, I hear music. I forget about the music, and immediately
And
like boom! Oh, I need to do this. This is easy. So never,
exactly.
never we don't think about the code or how to fix the problems.
Exactly. Dima?
Actually, this method we have to take it in our life also. In each problem that we face, that we have to take a break sometimes to thinking better, to get in our ideas, or ordering our ideas and making it better in decision.
Exactly. So always remember that. And an important thing then, going back to the mob, I know we deviated a little bit, but I still think it's important. When you work in the mob, you have to remember that as a team, you might continue working, but if you, as an individual, feel that you are a little bit fatigued of being there, the mob should have been created in such a way, or the rules should be that that individual can step away, and the mob should be able to continue, because that's the whole purpose of the mob. You have a team of people, 4 or 5 people working. If one steps away, that shouldn't prevent the mob as a unit to just continue doing what it needs to do. Yeah. So remember, if you were to work in this type of environment, you need to remember to do that. And I like, there's on page 72, I like this, the law of 2 feet, that says, if at any time during our, okay, this is what they mean by the original one. If at any time during our time together, you feel that you're not either learning nor contributing, use your 2 feet and go somewhere else. So basically, if you're in a mob and you're physically there, but you're not mentally there, you know that there's a big difference, and you're not mentally there, maybe that's an indication that you should step away, take a break, you're a bit fatigued, and then come back. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind about mob fatigue. If you don't feel that you're learning and you don't feel that you're contributing, maybe it's time to take a break, then come back, and so on. Any thoughts, any questions so far? Any questions? No? So again, next week, we are going to have on Wednesday next week, we're going to have a guest speaker. He's a previous colleague of mine, and he will be speaking about the mob programming, and he will be speaking about how he and his team, they work, I would say, every day as a mob, almost all day as a mob, how they have even set up an area of the office that is the mob station. It's an area that has been designed for mob programming. So it's not that it was improvised. It's more that it began as an improvisation, of course, for testing. And eventually they'd say, okay, it's time to buy the equipment. It's time to buy the stuff. Boom. And the room is literally designed for mobbing. The way it's set up, the TV has one computer, everything. So hopefully he will be speaking about those details as well, assuming he can. But yeah, really, really nice. So hopefully everyone can join. It's between lunchtime. So time is almost up. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts, any final words? No? So for the people who go to internship, once again, you're more than welcome to join us next week and until the end. But remember, priority on the internship. And for the ones who are not in internship, I guess I will continue seeing you. So it should not be a problem. So with that said, thank you everyone for joining. Mariam, hopefully you get well, especially for this evening, since we have the help session. But I'll see you guys in a help session or in lecture. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Have a
very
good one.
much.
Have a
Hedo.
good day. Hedo.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.